Perfect. What's up, Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. I am so sorry for the delay. I am having major technical difficulties tonight. Oh, man. How are you guys doing
Broke your
tonight, Adam?
computer, sir. What did you do?
Oh, just ask my computer to do its job.
Going to too many of those weird Japanese websites.
I should be used to it by now.
With tentacles.
Well, I appreciate you guys being patient with me. It's still, my computer's acting up. Once it gets going, I'll get in there and it'll be normal like it usually is. But welcome to episode 520 of the Purple People Podcast. JoeJuanit That Way. I tried to get the Backstreet Boys reference in so bad. I'm really excited to talk about this nothing signing. And I'm not calling JoeJuan a nobody.
You kind of just did.
I'm just overly excited that they're
Rick Sosa on Twitter.
Yeah. This is not a quality player. No,
I'll be honest. I went and I watched a video of him saying his name so I could know how to say it. It's weird that Joe is just pronounced Juan. Yep, that's what that's the way he said.
Well, this is cool because now we can say it's JoeJuanit That Way, and that sounds way better. Way better.
I didn't know that's how it was pronounced.
Well, typical white guy fashion, I messed the name up. My bad, Juan. Yeah. Welcome to the Vikings. We are excited. I'm excited because we'll dive right into it. This is a 6'3", or some people are saying 6'4" corner, 210 pounds. Fits Brian Flores's defensive, at least body type there. Bigger corners is part of the reason why I believe, and some others have said that maybe Duke Shelley didn't come back because they wanted a taller cornerback. I don't expect this guy to make a ton of money, but I'm very excited that they added because this cornerback room was barren. I mean, there's no one there outside of Byron Murphy that we've seen in a starting role. Yeah, I'm really excited to see Andrew Booth. I'm stoked that A. Caleb Evans is on the team. But these are essentially two rookies again. I didn't see much of Andrew Booth at all or A. Caleb Evans last year. So it's nice to have veteran depth there. And it doesn't mean that the Vikings won't go get a corner at some point in the draft, but this kind of fits what the Vikings' new management have been trying to do, which is get younger, get cheaper, and they do that low-risk, high-reward signing. And I love it. I don't know if this guy's going to flash or start or anything. I don't know what he is, but I know he's a former second-round pick for the Patriots, and they traded up to get him. So he must be good at some level, and I'm excited that the Vikings went and scooped him up.
He has one career start, which is a little off-putting because you'd like to see him kind of come in and hopefully compete for a starting job if he can be a big physical corner in his defense. But Vikings.com ran an article on him, and it talked about how he went through a lot of struggles growing up and how that sort of challenge has led to him being a good character player, someone who's good in the community too. And I know the Vikings had been doing that for a while too, even before when they were under Spielman, trying to bring in and keep that locker room good. And that seems to be one of the things that was important when they brought in Juwan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this had to be addressed, man. At some point, whether it be in free agency or the draft coming up next week, the Vikings were going to add another corner somewhere. We don't know where. We don't know what their priorities are. And quite frankly, tying this in with the draft, the Vikings have been very reserved. They're not showing any of their cards. They haven't said a name drop. They haven't said yes or no because they're looking for this in the first round or they're going to trade up, trade back. But this is a smart move, and it makes me have a little bit of breathing room as a fan to be like, okay, we're not just going to trot out complete rookies or nobodies that we've never heard of. And I'm also excited because not only will this guy get a chance to start, but this could bring out more of Andrew Booth Jr., which I was very excited on him last year. We've talked about it on the show. And I like Caleb Evans. I think he's a great piece.
I don't think the signing should make us feel too much more comfortable, though. But it is another player to add to the roster to add in and compete. And I hope that he's fired up and ready to go because he will get an opportunity here in Minnesota to play and show what he can do.
Yeah, it's a signing. That corner room was really barren. You need bodies out there. I mean, hell, even we're just talking training. Now, I don't think this is just simply a training camp body that they brought in. He's someone who's going to compete. Will he start? Probably not. Things have probably gone fairly wrong if he is starting for this team out there on defense. But that's okay. Like Adam says all the time, signings like this are a little bit about raising the floor for like, hey, you have to at least meet these expectations, and this is a guy that I think can come in and help do that.
I 100% agree. It'll be interesting to see what their approach is. I don't know, and we'll talk about this too because this is very prevalent in the news this week. I don't know what they're going to do with Dalvin Cook, Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, kind of the big three right now because involuntary, I think, workouts. There were a couple players that showed up. They had a couple of interviews on Vikings.com. No, Danielle wasn't there. No, Dalvin wasn't there. Don't know that Zadarius Smith was there either because those are all marquee starter. Yeah, those are all marquee and starter players. And, you see Harrison Smith and KJ Osborne up on the podium talking to the press. Lewis Seen was up there giving an update on his injury and stuff.
Ooh, I'm excited for him. I'm excited every time Lewis Seen talks.
I'm a big fan of his. I have a lot of faith that he's going to bounce back. And
I sure
just seeing
hope
the
so.
tape that he had at Georgia, man, it'll get you fired up if you're a Viking fan. And it would be a nice trade-off if this is the last year Harrison Smith puts on a Viking uniform too. But
it's definitely a bit scary that we're starting to hear more rumblings about both edge rushers for the Vikings being somewhat unhappy. So I don't like that at all. And of course, the rumblings that Minnesota is interested in moving Dalvin Cook is something that we've anticipated for a while, but has been a lot more prevalent among a lot of Vikings reporters and NFL reporters lately.
There's a lot of fans. I know there's a lot of Miami Dolphins fans who are already pre-ordering the number 4 Dalvin Cook Dolphins jersey. They're pretty confident they're going to get him. There was that Instagram post or tweet or something that maybe Cook is being linked to the Arizona Cardinals. So there's some kind of rumblings that are going on out there. Guys, it really feels like by this time next week, we're going to have a big show with draft recap and veteran players who have possibly been moved on and traded. Like, we had our lull, and there's going to be some big news stories coming up here soon, it feels like.
Well, I have to talk about it because I did it yesterday and it was a lot of fun. I joined Purple and Gold for Days. Again, if you guys tuned in recently on our positional breakdown stuff to try to help the offseason talk be spruced up. I did a live draft yesterday on Pro Football Focus's draft simulator with him and Mike Castellano and had a blast. And that was one of the things at the very end, spoiler alert, but still go check it out. Ran almost 2 hours and we talked about how the Vikings would maneuver. And we did like kind of a play it safe scenario. We did a one in the middle where we move around. And then we just went full PlayStation, Xbox mode on the last one. And Dalvin Cook, of all the teams, we traded him to the 49ers and they accepted. Could you imagine Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook in the same running back room? That would be insane. But
yeah, you might get a full season out of both of them.
So wrong. Hey, guys, my computer's up and ready. I'm going to jump off of here and I'm going to jump right back in.
Okay.
Sounds good. But yeah, the question of what kind of compensation you can get for Dalvin Cook at this point is kind of strange because we've seen some trades go through in the NFL recently, and the compensation for these players that used to be stars isn't what it used to be. The fact that Allen Robinson just went for a swap of sevenths is kind of crazy.
Yeah, right. And particularly at the running back position, where a lot of teams are not willing to pay a lot of money, and Dalvin Cook is going to come with a fairly hefty contract. I know that the Vikings would probably have to foot part of the bill for that. I'm never quite 100% sure how that works. But there's some rumblings that Cook, if they don't find a trade partner, might just flat out be released from this team. So you could potentially see Cook go for 6th round, 7th round pick, which would be an absolute steal for whoever does that. But that's a very likely scenario that could happen.
Well, I like that you brought that up. I was watching tonight. I was going to pick up a pizza, and I was watching Mike. What's his name? Florio.
Hunt.
Yeah. Mike Florio and Chris Sims talking about the situation, and I think there's some obligation to the Vikings. It would be like $2 million, something like that, and then the base being around 8. It's not that bad, but the deal is. Chris Sims had the point. He was arguing for Minnesota to keep him. Hey, I still think he has something left in the tank. he's going to go to another team and ball, and you're going to be like, damn, I think we got rid of him a year too early. But I'm always on board with 1 year too early.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is at this point. And to your point, Kyle, I think that the Vikings aren't – if you're expecting a second or a third for this running back, it's not going to happen. And it's not based on his talent and production. The position itself, you can find plenty of them. The supply and demand are not equal. So if you're thinking that we're going to get some extra compensation to make up for that second-round pick we lost for T.J. Hawkinson, we'll just get it out of Dalvin Cook, you'd be way more, I would say, likely to get that out of Danielle Hunter than you are Dalvin Cook, just based on the position alone.
I mean, if you trade Dalvin Cook, like to Miami, for example, and you get like a 4th-rounder out of him, I'd be happy with that, because that seems like the top end for what you're gonna get out of him. Danielle Hunter, I'm holding on to. You've got to sell me the farm before I'm willing to move on from him, especially because you don't have any kind of replacement or real depth, because you assume Zadarius Smith probably isn't going to be here, or if he is here, he's not happy and holding out on his contract. So you really don't have either of those two positions. I know we have the other player that we traded from for...
Yeah, Davenport's here now.
Yeah, correct, but I don't really know if you want to put all your eggs in the Davenport basket. So I'm not moving on from Danielle Hunter, not yet.
It's a good point. I'm glad.
Oh, and he thought he fixed the computer and then it froze up, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
You should have just stayed on the phone.
That'll teach him. Computer just was not ready for today. My technology has that feeling someday, especially with my internet, since I have satellite internet, can be rough.
Well, if you thought I was mad earlier, I wish you could see me now. Whew. Okay. Here we go, boys. Sorry about that.
We'll get this sorted out. Can you get rid of your other?
Yeah, the computer's restarted. I can't get that other. I apologize.
I'm sure once the computer reboots, that will disappear.
Man.
If not, it's kind of awesome.
It is kind of funny.
Yeah.
The 4 of us.
Yep.
Andrew, I appreciate you staying in the chat there. There we go. So, 3 Kyles. That's hilarious. But yeah, we were talking about Danielle Hunter, and I'm with you, Kyle. I want him to stay. I want him to be on the team, and I think it's fair. He's taken some team-friendly deals in the past. This kind of would be the dream scenario, and I don't know that it's going to work. We know that Zadarius Smith is under contract. If you can get Cook to take less money, I would welcome him back with open arms. Do a Harrison Smith kind of deal, or push some stuff down the road in years, maybe. I'm not
Cook
really
and his agents sound very against that.
Yeah, that seems very unlikely at this point.
Right. I agree with you. I don't think it's likely. And Adam, I'm with you. It's not the most ideal, but to keep him around and not have to guess, okay, cool. If we do the 1 year, keep him for 1 more year, keep Dalvin Cook, figure the money out. Danielle Hunter needs to get paid, and I'm not sure how they could do that. But if you want to get your draft compensation back, I would try to shop Zadarius Smith if I could. Otherwise, hey, we can do the holdout game. I'm not going to just cut a guy because he doesn't want to be here for no random reason. I don't know, man. It just bothers me, and I'd like to know why.
The problem is that other teams already know that Zadarius is disgruntled or not unhappy, so they know that if they don't do anything, Minnesota will have to pretty much release him if he refuses to play.
Right. Hopefully we'll have an answer next week and something will happen.
It's been very quiet on that front recently.
Right.
I haven't heard much noise whatsoever.
That's kind of the point. Like, it's so crazy. This signing of Juwan was pretty cool to have some kind of news, but I expect the Vikings to move around and do something closer to or on draft day. We just don't know what. And I said it last night on the mock draft. The tree that is the Minnesota Vikings, the branches for the draft go in 7 different directions. They could trade up and get a quarterback. They could stay put. They could go backwards. They could move some players we just mentioned.
And all these problems are happening because the Vikings paid Kirk Cousins.
Correct. It's all Kirk's fault.
that terrible top 12 paid quarterback.
I don't even know if he's in the top 12. I know
I
he's
don't
not
either.
in the top 10. I think he's fallen out of the top 12 too.
It's crazy.
New contracts just keep coming and look more and more ridiculous.
when that happens, you just move the goalpost, and then you talk about what percentage of the salary cap Kirk Cousins takes up, which is an entirely different conversation than what we were having prior, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We just move the goalpost to however we want to hate him.
Well, at some point, this coach and GM are going to hitch their wagon to a young quarterback and try to build, and it looks like it's getting closer to that, especially with them not extending Kirk.
Yeah,
but,
they've already kind of basically shown their cards a little bit.
Didn't they already open up
hey,
discussions too? Already saying too that they're starting to explore every option, including possibly coming back to Kirk Cousins.
Oh God, I didn't listen to that part of the press conference. I got to about the first 10 minutes in, and I was at work and I had to go. But I know they were fielding off those questions, which is cool about this GM and coach. They'll try to genuinely answer a question without giving any answers away, because they were getting bombarded about the draft and Dalvin Cook and Za'Darius, all the unfun questions that you have to ask, or that you're going to get asked in their position right now. But I don't know. I started out when he came to the team as kind of a hater, and he's grown on me a lot. But I just think we know what Kirk Cousins is. I don't think you'll win a Super Bowl with him. I don't think you have the roster to win a Super Bowl with him at this current moment. I think he's very good, not a great quarterback, and he's getting older. But I will say this, and
at this point, I don't think the window is open. I think you're right. If you're going to start looking for a way to restructure this whole team a bit, now would be the time to start chipping away and looking at a future quarterback, because I don't think the window is open at this moment. I don't think the Vikings are a realistic Super Bowl contender for this year or even next year, really.
Right, and this has been said on other shows, and I want to reiterate, this isn't my original idea or take, but it needs to be said. The Vikings need to go into an actual rebuild, not just competitive. If you want to get closer to getting up to the front of the draft, and that would mean that this team's not going to win as many games as they did last year. You're going to be middle of the pack or worse again. But to get closer to that, and the idea being to get a rookie quarterback on a 5-year deal and then build around that way, that's the formula now. That's the best way you can do it, unless you acquire a Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes.
And the Vikings are already taking baby steps towards that by letting go of some of the older players that are just making way too much money. And the fact that Minnesota is starting to do that means that they do realize that it is time to make some major changes in this organization. And it does start with sadly saying goodbye to some players that contributed a lot over the years.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they do want to build their version of the Minnesota Vikings, talking about, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi. Like, they want to build their team the way they see fit, and they did pretty good with what building blocks they were given last off season. But yeah, I understand. You got to move on, like you said, from some of the older veteran players, and it is that time. My big thing with Kirk, and this is what I always kind of come home to, is that the quarterback position is the one spot where, and we know this as Vikings fans, if you reach for that position and you get a guy who's not good, you're really set your franchise back. You're setting your franchise back for 4 or 5 years potentially. Now, if you draft a corner in the first round and that corner is a bust, that sucks. But you come back next year and you can redraft in free agency, and you can be
fine. You don't have to invest a lot of years in a corner that's just not working out.
Right. You can move on from that. There's an investment at that quarterback position, which is why I don't want to see the team. We know we're not winning a Super Bowl this year, spoilers, but I don't want to see the team move on from Kirk and just draft any quarterback. We got to draft any quarterback that's available. So we've talked ourselves into like the 4th or the 5th quarterback that's coming off the board, which those positions get overvalued. I know I'm going long here.
No, go for it.
Those positions are so overvalued that if you're grabbing the 3rd or 4th quarterback in round 1 or round 2, that's really probably should have been like a 3rd or a 4th round pick.
Yeah, if you're grabbing a QB5 instead of a wide receiver 2.
Right. What the fuck are you doing? I don't know what you're doing.
And Adam said it perfectly there. The QB5, and we'll talk about that in a minute because I want to let Kyle finish. But that's what I keep seeing mocked to us in the first round, and I don't want that. That it doesn't.
I
That the
don't
QB5 doesn't pass the wide receiver 2 on your team at that point for value. There's no way that happens. But please, my bad to jump in, Kyle. Please
no,
keep going.
you're fine. I mean, you can draft a quarterback, and you can have a guy, and that doesn't. You're not automatically going to get Patrick Mahomes. And a lot of Vikings fans are like, we're going to get Patrick Mahomes because we drafted a young quarterback, and Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback whisperer, and this is what he does, and this is what's going to happen. When history tells me as a Vikings fan, probably not going to happen. You're probably going to get Kellen Mond. You're probably going to get Christian Ponder.
Probably going to get a biscuit.
Best case is like Tavares Jackson for this franchise.
If we pass and get a biscuit and there's Mahomes in this draft, I'm gonna riot. I'm gonna be pissed.
All I know is that I don't know if I can draft a quarterback that puts mayonnaise in his coffee. That's a no for me.
Well, let's talk about.
I guess Mahomes puts ketchup on his steak, so I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't be commenting on people's dietary.
You know what?
Processes.
I would rather have ketchup on a steak than mayo in a coffee, though. That's psychotic. That's psychopath behavior. It's just gross.
And he actually did it on TV, on the screen. He put the mayo in there and mixed it up and drank it.
And, I understand the ketchup thing. Because that's like something you do as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's okay. You can get away with that as an adult. You shouldn't, but you can.
Well, you know what? He's good, too, so he can do whatever weird thing he wants.
Right.
Yeah. He gets away with it for being awesome, I guess.
And he turned it into a ketchup sponsorship, so who knows? Maybe the Vikings could have a mayonnaise sponsorship for a quarterback. I don't know. It kind of fit instead of Pizza Ranch.
Yeah.
Andrew, you said you would be okay with another TJ at this point, given that we have Justin Jefferson. Are you saying you want them to go tight end in the first round? Let's hear your thoughts.
Now, when you say TJ, are you talking about TJ Hawkinson or Tavares Jackson? What are we talking?
Tavares Jackson would be my guess. You know, I always kind of low-key liked Tavares Jackson. He was on some bad Vikings teams. I mean, I don't know. He did get a shot elsewhere in the league. What was it? Seattle? Buffalo, maybe?
Didn't he do something kind of bad, though, before he passed?
Yeah, potentially. I don't remember.
Andrew says Tavares Jackson. Andrew, I'm going to have the most, I won't say intense, but the most argumentative talk I've had with you on this show since I've been a part of this and you've been a part of this. If you're settling for Tavares Jackson, you don't want to win a Super Bowl. That's it. And I love that you said that because we have good weapons. But I am just the firmest believer in pounding the table that if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win.
We don't have good weapons because behind Justin Jefferson, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's no quality receivers behind him, apparently.
Nothing.
Right? But it's not – the days of Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl they're gone.
Oh, they're done.
And look what happened. Like, you can even take Matthew Stafford for an example. He was on a dog shit team forever. He goes to a superstar filled team and he does great. His potential was held back there, but he was still a good quarterback no matter what. And he's better, obviously, than Tavares Jackson was. But you have to have a game changer at that position. And I think Kirk is like right outside of that VIP room door of game changer quarterback. I think he's like in the hallway. But you got to have that superstar guy. And that's another reason why we can transition into the quarterbacks of this draft. I don't want Hendon Hooker in the first round. I think that would be a complete waste. I think there would be a wide receiver too.
That's like EJ Manuel. Like we're drafting him.
Yeah, and it's just not. There's no value there for me. When you pass up on like a Zay Flowers or even a Josh Downs from Carolina, even though he'll probably have like an early second grade, the mock we did yesterday. The first two mocks we had, there was Cansey sitting there available for the defensive line, and he's like the overall 13th prospect. If the 13th overall prospect is sitting there at 23, which is exactly what I think might happen based on how many teams reach and all this other stuff and teams go for need. If you're staying at 23, you better run to the phone and get that pick in immediately. You don't go draft a guy whose ACL is still recovering. You can find a guy just like that next year, in my opinion. Maybe not. But I don't like the value there. And the Vikings are in a weird predicament this year because as we sit right now, 10 days before the draft, 8 days before the draft, whatever, they don't have a second-round pick. So there's a long gap between pick 23 and pick 87. And for me, it's not worth it for a quarterback like that. And I like Hendon Hooker. He was great before his ACL injury. I think he had the best QBR in college football until he tore his knee out, which is great. That's good.
He's also what, like 35?
He's going to be like 25. Yeah. He did play in the big boy conference of the SEC, which I'll give him that.
Right.
But the saying is there's other options. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Now, this happened last night on our mock draft. First one we did, we were safe. Second one, I said we went a little bit crazy. If you're sitting there at number 4 and somehow C.J. Stroud is there, I'm calling the Colts or Arizona if they've traded back, and I'm going to offer up everything. And shout out to my boy Justin on Purple and Gold for Days, because he said that. And you got to think about it. You don't want to leverage first-round picks for 3 years. You'll give up this year's, next year's, and probably 2025. Well, go back and look at the first-round picks the Vikings have drafted recently in the last decade. Garrett Bradbury, Laquan Treadwell, Jeff Gladney, not here, not his fault. You can go down the list of first-round picks that would equal out. You're not guaranteed to hit those first-round picks anyway. I don't know. One of the top 2 quarterbacks.
I guess my big thing is that I don't think that another year of Kirk Cousins is that bad. And it's like, guys, you do realize there are quarterbacks you can draft next year.
But you also got to look at this draft. Like, okay, if you come out of this draft in the first round, you grab a quarterback that you're going to sit behind Kirk Cousins, you're getting nothing for this year's team until the 3rd round.
Yeah,
at best.
Yeah. Right. Good point, Adam. I didn't even think of that, but that's a solid point.
This team has a lot of holes and needs a lot of support to fill out this roster.
Right. Well, there is a scenario, and we talked about it last night, where if that was to happen, and I'm just, this is like way out in Xbox land. This is a virtual reality. But if you're going to get a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, if they happen to fall a couple of spots and you start calling and saying, hey, we got to go try to get this guy. Let's say Arizona or Indianapolis or whomever, they say, hey, we'll take the trade. That's when you try to shop Cousins, because those 2 guys, they can start. They'll start wherever they go immediately. I don't want those guys sitting behind Kirk. But if I get an Anthony Richardson, a Will Levis, a Hendon Hooker, I'm totally all right with Kirk staying and letting them learn, especially Anthony Richardson. He's been the big X factor for me. He's got a body like Cam Newton. He's an athletic freak, but he has very little college time on the field, and he's going to need some time to develop. So you're going to want a guy like that to sit. I understand your point, Kyle. I'm not mad at it either. I'm just throwing out like different prospects can go down a different road, just go into this team at all. But yeah, I think you're right. If it's another year of Kirk, I wouldn't be mad about it. Like you're saying, you don't have to. Drake May out of North Carolina and that Caleb Williams kid from USC, they're going to go 1 and 2 next year. You can always go get another one that's going to be, I guess, one of those generational quarterbacks, and not like we got a quarterback in the first round. The
Let's be honest, next year the Vikings will probably have an earlier pick. We'll say that.
They'll have an. I agree. You'll have an earlier pick, so if you want to jump into that top 10, you don't got to give up as much capital. You're probably going to have more draft capital because potentially you've moved on from any of the 3 guys we talked about earlier in the show.
Yep.
Whatever you get out of them, you're starting to build more ammo to jump up and then draft a quarterback. And to me, that feels more realistic. Adam, do you remember, does Kirk still have the no trade clause?
Yeah, he currently. Well, I'm actually not 100% positive at this point.
Yeah,
after the last thing, but
I'm almost positive he does.
Pretty sure he does.
So that's almost a non-starter. Even talking about we're gonna send Kirk and whatever and jump up in the draft. Like, I think
there are some teams that Kirk would agree to be traded to. I think he'd probably be jumping for joy if they said, "Hey, do you want to go to the 49ers?" He'd probably be doing backflips.
Yeah.
Especially if with the Trey Lance thing being in the wing, but they have Sam Darnold there, and Brock Purdy's not going to play at all. He had Tommy John surgery. That dude ain't playing at all this year. So, and you got to think he got injured in the NFC Championship game at the very end of the season. So he's not going to play. So you're relying on Trey Lance, who is very injury prone, or Sam Darnold, which I don't think any of us are blown away by. So it's not a. You're right, Kyle. It's not.
Jets will probably want to trade Zach Wilson.
That poor guy. The new Josh Rosen, Zach Wilson. Sucks for him.
I still low-key kind of want the 49ers to make a trade with the Packers for Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, there's no way the Packers agree to that. No way.
Yeah, he's not going in the same conference.
I said it last night because someone in the chat over the other show last night said what about the Aaron Rodgers drama? And I said, dude, if the Jets don't make the deal for him and the Packers say we're keeping you, I guarantee you he retires. He's that relationship is broken, and he said it out loud. Like, I just wish he would have been up front. Like, if the bridge is burned in his mind, according to him, he'll retire 100%. They're not going to cut him, so he can just go anywhere.
The Packers have already talked about being ready to move forward with Jordan Love. So, I mean, I don't see those two sides coming together and being able to work something out.
I think that they would love to have obviously you would love to have the picks you're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers, but like you said, you're already planning on starting Jordan Love, so they're fine. The Jets would be screwed. Royally screwed.
Well, they have 2 first-round picks. If they really want to go get a quarterback, they can. I think they have 2 firsts.
It's also the Jets, so when's the last time they've done anything correctly?
They're doing, you know what they're doing correctly other than quarterback? Pretty much everything else on the team.
I was going to say Sauce Gardner. That was pretty solid.
They've got a lot of talent.
They came into Minnesota last year with Mike White, and that was a very, very close game. Like, they have talent on almost every level on the team. It's just they can't nail down the quarterback. That sucks for them, but
because let's be honest, the AFC is kind of dangerous with so much going on over there.
Well, the AFC East, too, is super competitive. Patriots are always going to be pesky, sniffing on the playoffs every year. The Bills run the division now, and the Dolphins, I hate to say this because Tua seems like a nice guy, but they get a quarterback that's healthy all the time, they're going to be damn good, too. They could rotate in between any of those teams.
Such an explosive team there in Miami.
Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill flirting with TikTok chicks now. You guys see that in the chat?
No, yeah, I can't say my answer on here, but
yeah. Annie Agar, she's very famous for doing all the jersey swaps and talking for each team, and Tyreek Hill shooting his shot for her on Twitter, which was very weird, just openly about it. And it's like, all right, good for you, I guess. That'll be something fun you guys can go look up on Twitter.
Okay.
But we can keep going for the draft a little more, but we have the positional breakdown. I included the special teams too, because I don't think we're going to do a show right before the draft next week. But I think, and we'll go over it, I guess, one final time before the draft next week. And we'll do the draft live. Guys, we do it every year since COVID started. It's going to be lots of fun. I think the Vikings are going to move back, and I think they're going to acquire picks. I think the catalyst for that is going to be Bijan Robinson, the number 1 running back this year. The Cowboys, the Bills, and the Bengals all could use a running back, and I think that they could be potential suitors to trade back with to get a second-round pick back, which we know this GM from last year would do that. Only thing I say, Questy, if you're out there listening, please don't trade within the division again. I don't do that on draft day. I like that you got some picks or whatever, but don't do that. Because these other teams that have been in the dumpster. I
don't mind getting a little angry on draft day, but trading with the divisional team on draft day kind of pisses me off more than it should. Let's not do that.
Well, what sucks is the Lions and the Bears are getting better. They've added the pieces. Yeah. Now, whether that'll fit, whether they gel, the formula works, the coaching's right, we'll see. The Lions are definitely a team on the rise, and they'll give you fits already. The Bears have added a lot of talent because they had a lot of draft picks and, capital. Now they have some draft picks traded with Carolina. So, yeah, don't do that. Don't trade with the division. But I think the Vikings are going to trade back. That's just my personal thought because they need so many positions to be filled or at least to get depth on. It makes more sense to acquire more capital to trade back. And not having a second-round pick is big. So I think that's what they're going to do.
Are we trading clear out of the first round into the second, or are we keeping...
I don't think so. I think that fifth-year option, in my opinion...
Thank you. I was going to say, you want that 5th year, right?
You got to have it, right? Like, if you get, like, Lewis Seen, when his extension comes up, or you get that chance to do that, we did it with Justin Jefferson, being in the first round, that'll be something we talk about, even though he's going to get an extension early because he's the best wide receiver in the league. Mm-hmm. I think it's just too tempting not to, but I don't know.
The package just put in front of you, I mean... You get a testy enough offer to move back in the second round, you have to consider it.
Yeah, if you end up getting like 2 seconds and one of them's, with a team in the first 5 picks there, sure. I think they're going to trade back. This GM is all about value, and I kind of appreciate that. A little bit of money ball to him that I can fall in love with to a certain extent. I'm excited to see where the team goes. I'm not sure what the heck they're going to do. They could do many things. I think their biggest need, in my opinion, if I'm drafting on night one of the draft at any point, I'm getting a wide receiver as early as I can. If I stay put or go back, I don't think you need to trade up to get one, but get a wide receiver because Adam Thielen's gone. You need to have that dynamic speedster, I would say. So I'm looking for speed. I'm looking for Zay Flowers is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think Osborne could fill in at number 2. It's just I really love him in that number 3 role.
He excels in it. And I made a friend last night. Shout out to Dustin. I brought up Aldrick Robinson and Jarius Wright, and he's like, I love this guy for bringing those guys up. KJ does that better than those two, I think, did. I think he's very, very good. But you're right. And the thing is, you got to think about it, too. We never talk about this because it hasn't happened yet. But God forbid JJ tears his ACL.
Oh,
This team is screwed. You're done. And you have to have some sort of competitiveness there.
At that point, does Hawkinson become your number 1 option?
If Kirk's running the team, he's going to be the number 1 go-to guy. I guarantee that. That's a security blanket all day, but I don't know. And like I said, we said it earlier, we were joking about people talking shit to KJ on Twitter. We love you. We've never said a bad thing about you. I was at the game. You won an overtime touchdown in Carolina. You are awesome. It's better to have more options than not. That depth is so key. We've seen in years past, especially in the last 10 years, when a certain group gets injured, how the play just drops off because the depth wasn't there. The Vikings during the Rick Spielman era was so dependent on those starters being there all the time, but the depth really took a hit pretty much everywhere. You had your starting team, which was really good, but when 1 or 2 of those guys get hurt or it lingers all season, it showed a couple of times. And I don't know. I think wide receiver is the way to go, but we need another corner. Linebacker is definitely scarce. Wouldn't be mad later to add safety depth, or I already said corner. Defensive line
wouldn't be bad.
Good. What's that?
An edge rusher wouldn't be bad.
Wouldn't hate that.
I almost think you have to, because where there's smoke, there's fire. We're hearing a little bit of rumblings about Daniil Hunter. Maybe you need insurance for that. We don't know what's going on with Smith.
Right.
I don't think the Vikings are bad as far as depth and rotational players for the edge rushers, because they do have some high potential players there behind them. But I don't know if they're players that I'd feel comfortable in a starting role at this moment.
I'm excited. Somebody said that in the chat last night. Patrick Jones would flourish under Brian Flores. Forgot about him. He's great. And who else am I thinking of? JoeJuanit. He always shows up. He reminds me so much of Everson Griffin, especially early on when you just get plugged in and makes plays. He usually makes plays when he gets a chance. So
those are definitely players that could prove themselves and be major contributors going forward if they got more opportunities.
I think we're going to ask a lot of Davenport as well. He might not know that yet. Maybe he does because he got a good deal, but we're going to be relying heavily on you. But I guess we can transition to that. I don't have it up because I'm using my phone. But let's talk about the defensive line, the edge rushers, and we'll talk about special teams at the end briefly because all those guys are coming back, which is great. But talking about it now, we've all said we wouldn't be upset if they went D-line in the draft. If they stay put at 23, like I said yesterday for the mock, go check it out on the Purple and Gold for Days channel. I got to collab with them last night. Cansey fell, and I think he's from Pitt, another Pitt lineman. I heard they put some good ones out. I wouldn't be mad about that pick at all. It might not be sexy, but I don't know if you guys noticed the last couple of years, this team couldn't stop a nosebleed. So
when we're looking at defensive linemen for this draft, are we still sort of keeping that 3-4 defense or 4-3 defense mentality in our mind to where we're looking for that kind of specific thing, or are we just looking for a playmaker that we could contribute no matter what?
It's impossible for me to not look at the Vikings defense and just picture a 4-3 defense. Like I still don't fully wrap my head around the 3-4 scheme and stuff. It's like I'm still looking at Daniil Hunter as that hand in the ground 4-3 defensive end going after the quarterback, Jared Allen, because that's one of my favorite positions in football is that 4-3 defensive end. I love that spot. So that's kind of how I think of this.
And now defensive end means something absolutely completely different. If you look at the Vikings defense from that standpoint, to where now a defensive end is just on the interior trying to be a big guy that can contain an edge while the edge rushers do their work, instead of being an edge rusher themselves. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know it might just be a different terminology, but it also means that there's a different kind of quality of player that you're looking for to fill a defensive line that's going to look different.
Yeah.
That's what Donatel wanted to run. I'm not sure if Flo wants to run that too, but I'm with you, Adam. You said
because
when
the new defensive coordinator was asked about the defensive style they're going to run, they really were, I'm not going to say non-committal, but they were open.
Yeah.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they're going to lock into a certain scheme or personnel grouping. So, I mean, when I'm looking at this draft and I'm looking at players, I'm not really trying to pigeonhole them into playing a certain position, especially on the defensive line.
Correct. And, to your point, Adam, to answer your question from a minute ago, if you're, you want to, are you thinking about it just as a 4-3, or is it just whatever player can make an impact? I'm going to go with the guy that can make an impact. I trust Brian Flores. The proof is in the pudding there that he's a defensive guy and he's going to make the defense great. Not like they were going to get much worse than last year anyways. But I'm also to the point where you got to do what's best for the player as well. I don't want to see Danielle Hunter in coverage. I don't want to see it.
I know.
And he doesn't excel there, and it wouldn't make sense to use him in some way where he doesn't use him in the way that he has proven that he excels and helps, rush the passer, which is what he does.
Yeah, put your best players in a position to succeed. It's weird because they made the switch to 3-4, and I don't feel like they ever fully drafted or got the right players to fit that scheme. It's like we were trying to retrofit a bunch of guys we had into a system that didn't really suit them. And Danielle Hunter, we keep coming back to him, but he's a good, easy example to explain it to. His best skill set is that hand in the dirt going after the quarterback. And you can drop him into coverage, but I don't know why you would want to take him away from rushing the quarterback. You're taking sacks and you're taking pressure off the board.
I know we mentioned a lot on the show, especially me and West, but like when the Bears decided they wanted to take Jared Allen and try to use him on the outside as a linebacker and give him that extra run-up room, and that was not his thing.
He didn't. Yeah, it didn't work at all.
Yeah, granted he was older, but it just felt out of place. I don't know. I'm with you, Kyle. I think you just got to use where they're naturally gifted and where they excel at the best, and it'll help the team. I'd rather see a player be in a natural spot.
I've never been the biggest fan of the 3-4 defense. I just don't. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand it fully and what the strengths of it are. But like I always looked at like Green Bay on how they were using Clay Matthews as a 3-4 3-4 outside linebacker, and was like, dude, Clay Matthews should have been a 4-3 defensive end. He would have put up phenomenal numbers in that position on a consistent season-by-season basis. And I thought they wasted him. And he was a darn good player for Green Bay in that system.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just, I'd rather see Danielle Hunter go up against the best tackle and struggle doing what he does best than have a misstep in a place where he's not comfortable, if that makes sense. And I don't want that for any player. And I'm not taking away from Danielle. I'm sure he can do coverage stuff as a DN, but the dude naturally is built like a Greek god, and he's just bigger and stronger than everybody else. I'd like to see him rush the quarterback. Like I'm with you on that, man.
Well, what Smith was saying is absolutely right. If a big-bodied defensive tackle or defensive end falls to Minnesota, and they can get him to get in there and take up some space, and eat up some of that running game, and possibly put some pressure up the gut on other teams. I mean, it's something that Minnesota needs desperately, because that was missing so bad last year.
It was missing last year. In 2021, it was bad. 2020, the run game was terrible. The run defense, it's just been kind of a theme. And I hate that Dalvin Tomlinson left. I liked him a lot as a player. Shout out to him for getting his money and going to Cleveland. But you're right, Adam. You got to find somebody.
I'm a big fan of Harrison Phillips. I think he's a good player there.
Sure.
But I would also like to see a little bit more. I won't say great players next to him, but if you can get some solid players along that defensive line, it could help and go a long way to really shoring up a defense that has underperformed quite bad in recent history.
So Makes you miss the days of having like Kevin Williams out there on that defensive line. Kevin and Pat Williams.
The glory days, man.
I would miss LaTroy Guion.
Man, that's a throwback. Whew. So Mike last night made an interesting comment. I'd like to see you guys' opinion on it, because I wouldn't be mad at it for a year, because at this point, this player in their career is just a mercenary to make money and play on a team. But let's say Smith and or Hunter goes and you're kind of barren at that position. I wouldn't hate bringing in Jadeveon Clowney for 1 year to do what he does best and see what happens. Maybe you draft a young edge rusher first or second round. If that push comes to shove, there are options out there, but I don't know, man. I'm feeling, now that we talk about it more, I feel like I could be talked into just about everything. If we talked about corners for an hour, I'd be talked into it, or a wide receiver for sure. I've already pounded the table for, but
we said this early on, man. The defense, there are so many positions that you can fill on the defense that in terms of a first round, if there is a playmaker on defense available, take him. I won't be mad.
Corner, linebacker, edge rusher, defensive lineman. I'm good with almost any of those. And if we draft a safety again, I think the internet might explode a little bit, but
the internet might. But
I wouldn't be mad.
Smith?
What is the name? Brian Branch keeps getting thrown around. I forget what school he plays for, but I see that name to the Vikings a little bit, and I push back on it on one of the Facebook posts. But you're right, linebacker, edge rusher, interior D line.
But also, if Minnesota does draft another safety, that doesn't mean they can't take like Lewis Seen and move him into more of a nickel corner
role.
Because he's got that versatility and is able to do that.
Well, here are your three safeties right now, assuming they'll all be healthy to go. You have Cam Bynum, Lewis Seen, and Harrison Smith. Probably last year, Harrison Smith will be with us. That's my guess. He took a pay cut. He didn't have to. He's getting older. Whatever. If you draft a safety this year, and then you have a tandem of safeties for 7 years together and Seen and let's just say Branch for the scenario, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No, it really
I wouldn't be upset at that at all. The defense needs a lot of help, but I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting, man. We have no idea where the Vikings are going to go with this. They have not shown any of their cards and could go.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Smith, but are you kind of saying that you're fine with the Vikings drafting a player for future seasons rather than the immediate seasons, as in kind of saying, I'm not going to say that 2023 is going to be a disposable season for the Vikings, but just like that you are looking at this as the start of a long-term rebuild.
I think so. I think it's inevitable. And I think it started with those contracts they had to get out of. They want to get younger. They understand, hey, it's value. I keep going back to that. The brass of the team right now are all about value. And
some fans still have the mentality that this Vikings team, if you can go and have a good draft, you can still be competitive in 2023.
Oh, I think they're going to be competitive. I think with Brian Flores entering the building, the defense is going to be adjusted. We'll probably be around that 19 to 20 range. I think that's a realistic goal. They were 31st out of 32 last year. I think it's a far stretch to say they'll be top 10, but I think they could easily jump up to 19 or 20, which is a lot more respectable. And they're going to try to do it at least for 1 year with some bargain bin shopping, because they don't have a lot of money and they don't have a lot of draft picks. And I'm okay with that, because it's kind of the hand you have to play. Fans need to be okay with that. You can't. What happened last year, and we say it all the time, but we'll say it again. 2020 and 2021, the team was better than their record showed. The defense was bad. Mm-hmm. They lost a couple of games each of those years where they could have won them. Last year, relatively the same team. Different coach comes in. They win a few more games than they probably should have. The team has been relatively the same, just seeing the production to come out. With some of these players leaving, I don't see that being a reason they drop off. It's just who they're replacing them with, either the caliber or the experience. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do think Brian Flores will help the defense be better as a whole. I think there's going to be at least one position group where we're kind of like, oh man, it's kind of hot in here looking at the depth. But I think that's just the hand they're going to have to play, because, like I said, the money situation, draft capital situation, that's just going to be it. And sometimes you got to do that. We've seen it in the past 10 years that I've been a fan, where at least one of those seasons we look out and we're like, man, that cornerback room fucking sucks.
It feels kind of strange to be looking at this roster, though, and saying, okay, with the schedule or with the opponents coming up, none of us are really expecting this Vikings team to repeat the number of wins from last season.
No, I'm not.
But we still kind of expect the Vikings to be challenging for the division title.
Yeah.
Which is a strange way to look at things, because those two things, especially during what we think is a rebuild, we're sitting here looking at that, and that's a lot of things to be true that usually aren't true together.
It's two things that you're expecting to happen that shouldn't, that probably won't. I do think that this year is a rebuild year for the Vikings, and I don't even think you need to add the word competitive on top of it, because it's the NFL. Every year is even when you're the terrible winless
I do not believe the Arizona Cardinals are going to be competitive this upcoming season.
Well,
they're going to be so bad.
Good plus 1 point for that one, Adam. That's a good point on that one.
Although,
but, I mean,
last season I said that the Seahawks weren't going to be competitive, and boy, was I wrong there.
Yeah,
dude, you have owned up to that so many times. I give you credit for it. It's none of us thought Seattle was going to be good. They ended up getting.
I thought they had a chance to go winless.
We didn't believe in Geno.
I did not.
We're some of those people that he didn't write back because we wrote him off. But
and I mean,
I love when a player can prove me wrong, though. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm with Smith. I was all on board for Russell Wilson in Denver, and I mean, I know that was an easy bet to make, but
yeah,
that sure seemed like a surefire signing.
That coach is so bad. That's just one of those where you look at, like we've said, how does these people keep getting jobs? That guy, Aaron Rodgers, gave that guy his job security in Green Bay because he is awful. He's
NFL
awful.
Network needs to follow around Arizona's coaches and GM and stuff, and just make that a TV show. I want to watch that.
I would watch that with you.
Yeah.
Poor Cliff Kingsbury, already pushed back into the college realm now, helping out Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley over there at USC. Good luck to you, sir.
He'll get another job. Some team will come calling him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we talked about Jordan Phillips. Obviously, we mentioned Davenport earlier. We were talking about the edge rushers. We'll see.
Was it Rick Spielman who was talking about the Vikings, how they should be pounding the table for a running back this year?
Yep, that was Rick Spielman. Well, it wasn't the Vikings. He didn't specifically say the Vikings.
Oh, he just said a team.
He said, if he was in charge of a draft board, here are the 4 or 5 players that I would be pounding the table for. And if you do the math based on where players are probably going to go, the running back would be the one that would fit with the Vikings. So you can be like, oh, I wonder if Rick would have been going after the running back. And you know what? You can really easily believe that this would have been the year that he'd do something like that.
I will say this, Bijan Robinson has gotten a lot of hype. That dude is a monster, and he's going to be great on whatever team he goes to.
Would you hate it? I mean, let's just go there. Would you hate it?
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't want that pick. I wouldn't be the person to be like, yes, go draft a running back. But here's a scenario where I'm okay with it. If they ship Dalvin Cook off to the Dolphins or the Falcons or the Cardinals or wherever, and on draft day, and they go get him, I'm not going to hate it. Because you know what? You know what's great for a young rookie quarterback that might come next year? A great running back.
Yeah.
But also, let's take a second to talk about the running backs that Minnesota have drafted and never really got a chance to showcase what they can do as a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because there are some players that the Vikings haven't even really had a chance to run the ball with or catch a ball out of the backfield and show what they can do. And honestly, I wouldn't say that drafting another running back would be a bit of a waste at this point, but it does kind of put a limitation on these players that the Minnesota Vikings thought would be contributors at one point. But if they go without never testing them and then they go to another team and they end up being good, Minnesota's going to look awfully silly.
That's a great point.
It would be a weird pick. It's not going to happen. That one's real low on the probability thing, I think, happening for the Vikings. But it is kind of fun because you can almost talk yourself into it where you're like, well, you need another playmaker and you could get that rookie running back for cheap and get some production out of him and then ship him off in 4 or 5 years and let someone else pay him a bunch of money. I can talk myself into that.
If they got rid of Cook, I wouldn't hate it. If you still had Cook and then you draft a running back, I'd be like, Questy, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Guys,
none of the three of us are keen on paying a running back a lot in today's NFL.
No, in my mind, Cook is already gone. I'm serious. He's not playing for this team this year.
Probably not.
I really don't think so.
All right, I have not been paying very close attention. What is going on with the tag of Saquon Barkley? Is he not signing it, or what's happening?
No, he's not signing it. He wants to get a different deal. I have two giant fans that I work with, and they're saying this is a non-issue. Said they're going to work something out with him. I said it on the chat after they gave Daniel Jones that money. I was like, you tagged the wrong player, dummies. I said it. You should have tagged Daniel Jones and gave Saquon that, but they're going to have to do both now. They're going to have to give their money away to both of those guys.
And don't they have like a defensive player that is very good now that's unhappy too, trying to get paid, and there's no money for him?
I don't know who specifically we're talking about, but I do know that I really wish we had Dexter Lawrence. He's really good. Maybe we can scoop him up in a couple years.
Trying to get paid, especially a player that isn't. I hate to say this considering how it used to be such a premium position, but running back is not a premium position anymore. And if you're paying a running back a lot of money, it can really hurt rounding out a roster. So, I mean, if you're paying a running back a lot of money, it's just not a good thing at all for your team at this point.
Okay, so what do you guys think? What are what's your top 3 positions that you're comfortable spending a lot of money at in today's NFL?
Super easy. Quarterback, edge rusher, left tackle.
Ooh, good choice. What about you, Adam?
I can't argue with his choices, but I mean, we've seen so many failures as far as major contracts at every position in the NFL. I mean, there's Brock Osweiler's, and Albert Haynesworth's in every NFL situation. So,
Wolf.
And Josh Norman's, I guess, if we just want to throw them all out there. These flash in the pan players that just get paid based on performances that they probably shouldn't have gotten paid off of. But yeah, I mean, you have to throw your money. Once you think you have your quarterback, you got to pay them and keep them around and keep them happy. But if you're not sure, I mean, you have to. If you're not sure about your quarterback, you can't pay him like a quarterback you're sure of.
New York.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
kidding. They love him.
The same with edge rushers. A good edge rusher can make such a big difference. And I'd like to say corner, but honestly, with today's NFL, I don't think you need to pay a corner $15 million a year the way you might have had to have in the past.
It'll be interesting what they got to pay Sauce Gardner, assuming he continues on the path that he's headed, because he's gonna make a lot of money when he's
gonna be the new Jalen Ramsey if it keeps going the way it is.
Yeah,
he's gonna be very good.
I pretty well mirror what you guys say for that one. Quarterback, obviously, if you think, like Adam said, if you think you got your quarterback, you've got to pay them to keep them around. Left tackle, you've got to, if you've got your quarterback, or even if you don't, you've got to keep someone up there upright, and left tackle's your position to do that at. And then defensive end. I just believe that if you need to have that good pressure coming to stop the opposing quarterback, and if you have a player who can do that you believe in, you pay money at that position.
You hear that, podcast listeners? We're all against paying a wide receiver, so see you later, Justin Jefferson.
It's not that, okay.
Eat some poop on your way out.
It's not that I'm opposed to paying a wide receiver. You definitely should. And we're going to pay Justin Jefferson mightily. Well, we're not, but the Vikings are going to pay him mightily. You can also find receivers, because every kid wants to play wide receiver.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, there's always an abundance of receivers out there. And you're not always going to end up with Stephon Diggs in, what round was he?
5.
6th round? 5? 5th round pick? You're not always going to, but you can.
But you don't have a Tom Brady to make a Hogan look good or something like that, you know?
Yeah, yep.
You know what's funny, Kyle?
Chris Hogan can succeed in every system.
You know what's funny, Kyle? You asked that and say what it is. And you know who I stole that from, because it makes the most sense? It's all based around the quarterback, if you include him in there. But I got it from Colin Cowherd. That's the 3 that he said, and it makes the most sense. You pay the quarterback because it is the most important position. You pay the guy on your team that's going to rush the other team's quarterback, and then to round it out, you want to protect yours. So it's just a little revolving door, triangle of that, and it makes sense.
I think kickers are underpaid.
So do you swap to right tackle if you've got a left-handed quarterback?
Dude, I was thinking about it earlier. You have to. You have to. Or if you're smart, you'll get 2 really good tackles like Seattle did. You could do it at one.
I don't expect anyone to actually know the answer to this, but did that matter when Michael Vick was playing?
It did.
I'm sure it did.
His right tackle, was that the important position for him?
Yeah, because that turns into his blindside tackle.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, we brought it up. You brought up the kickers not being paid enough. We can talk about it real quick, but all of our special teams players are coming back. We've got an all-pro long snapper. Our kicker's coming back. Our punter's coming back. I like that unit as a whole is not going anywhere because there was a lot of inconsistency there the last decade. And I'm very, very good. I'm a big fan of the stick boy punter we have. Big old fan of his.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see any 3 of those guys getting drafted competition this year. Maybe some undrafted free agents to bring in. I know we're going to have at least some camp bodies and some competition from those undrafted players, but I don't think we're going to see a draft pick for those special teamers. And it doesn't sound like Minnesota's looking right now actively for a kicker punt returner, probably in the draft or undrafted free agents at this point. I think they're pretty happy with what they've got.
What happened with the LT drafted in Tampa? Talking about the one recently? Andrew, I have to get a name, but we can round that out and talk about other news because there are 2 big. The second one's not a big piece, but we were talking about quarterbacks earlier. We'll talk about NFL stuff. Andrew, tell us who you're talking about with a name there. We'll finish that out. I'm looking on my YouTube page right now, and I see Allen Robinson. He's traded to the Steelers today. That's a good weapon for Kenny Pickett. Rams didn't really get much out of him for that. It was like a
a swap of 7th. The Rams ate $10 million on that too.
Yeah, you're seeing the effects of paying a bunch of people and having to pay
Robinson's
for it
coming off such a down year too that they got him at such a big discount.
Right.
And he can be a game-changing receiver. We have seen him do it in the past. We don't know if his time with the Bears was very indicative of who he was, and his lack of production with the Rams was strange. But he was a stud with the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I think he'll pair well with George Pickens as well. He's very good.
So I did a quick Google here. Tampa Bay released their left tackle. It would have been last month. According to the article I'm reading, he posted his worst Pro Football Focus grade of his career at age 29. He had a large cap hit of $17.9 million entering 2023.
Donovan Smith.
Yes, Tampa Bay moved on from him. It cleared them up $10 million in cap space. So I think you're looking at an aging veteran who was not producing at the level that they wanted, and so they moved on from him down in Tampa Bay.
So is Tampa going to be terrible this year?
No, they're going to get Will Levis, and they're going to go back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, dang.
I like the Baker's down there. That's a lot of fun. I like him seeing him. Biker. That's so funny. I like that he's down there getting another chance. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, we touched on it barely earlier, but we didn't give the details. If you didn't hear yesterday or the day before, Jalen Hurts became the highest paid player in NFL history. I'm going to read it out to you now from Spot Track, and it's their little highlighted paragraph on the first page. If you just Google Jalen Hurts contract, $255 million, 5 years, includes $23.2 million for a signing bonus, $179,300,000 guaranteed, average annual salary of $51 million even. In 2023, Hurts will earn a base salary of $4 million, workout bonus of $100,000, and carries a cap hit of $4.7 million. I still fully don't understand how the cap works, but
no trade clause too.
Yes, so they are dedicated to him, and he wanted to stay there because, I think he can dictate that.
Somehow things didn't work out with Carson Wentz.
God, he's the loser of this whole thing. I mean, it really is. That sucks for that guy.
I want to support him because it's Gingers, and we kind of got to support each other a little bit, but
right.
Goodness gracious.
I like this for him. If he has another year like this, Jalen Hurts, he's going to be hard to keep out of the top 5 conversation. He
I'll
played
be honest,
very well.
I have no idea where Carson Wentz is now.
Yeah. I'll find out. We'll Google it right now.
Yeah, it's a really big contract for Hurts. I think he deserves it, and I think that I was reading a comparison that it's not too far off from what Lamar Jackson was offered from the Ravens for his contract. So maybe this will have the unintended effect of like getting.
I've heard the Ravens are still offering Lamar some amounts, so we'll see if that conversation picks up a little bit more and something happens there. Because if it does, that's interesting.
They got to get that resolved soon.
Carson Wentz is a free agent. He is 30. He turned 30 in December, and he is from my neck of the woods in Raleigh, North Carolina. Born in Raleigh. That's crazy. He's a free agent.
There, huh?
What's that?
He's still out there and available.
Yep, Carson Wentz can come change your team.
So we could release Kirk Cousins and sign Carson Wentz and draft that hooker kid, and then be all set at quarterback, right?
Sure.
That's how you do it?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Just checking in. Just making sure.
Yeah, the Hurts thing, though, I'll end it on that, is I'm happy that he got paid. I think he's proven that he's good. I think it's going to be hard initially, trying to build around because they keep nailing the draft picks. They keep bringing in free agents. That fire is going to calm down a little bit just based on history. I go off of history. You're not going to maintain that, paying a quarterback that much unless you're Andy Reid and the Chiefs. I mean, I haven't seen that.
Well,
ever.
Hurts became a star last year, and his performance in the Super Bowl made him a superstar.
Yeah, outside of that turnover, he was absolutely perfect in that game. He was wonderful. That team's built very well. They did lose some pieces, but I think they're still going to be very good. I don't see them. I think that trend is going to stop this year where the NFC East has a new champion every year. I think that stops. I think Philly's going to be there for a hot minute. I don't see the Commanders.
Which sucks. I hate
I don't see the
Dallas
Giants, the Cowboys doing that, anything special. But, yeah, good for him. He got paid. That certainly resets the quarterback market. You guys mentioned Lamar Jackson. That'll make that interesting. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to stay with Baltimore. They're eventually going to come to an agreement. But that's just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think dealing him is more difficult than they thought it was going to be.
Well, not only that, is the only team that's really built for Lamar right now is
the
Baltimore.
Team built for Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all they've got to do, they signed Odell Beckham, which is good for them. Maybe he comes back and he's still pretty good. He was doing great in the Super Bowl that year until he tore his knee up. I think he was on his way to win an MVP of that game. Just me. He was doing very well, but you get him a good receiver. That team's built for Lamar. So whatever. I will say this. I'm not hating on Lamar doing his thing. I think it takes balls to represent yourself and put that much on the line and bet on yourself. But I don't think Baltimore has been stingy on their offers. I think they've offered him very fair contracts. So,
well, let's finish up the show here. I want to mention one more thing. Now is a really cool time for Minnesota sports fans. The Vikings were a playoff team. The Wild last night had an absolutely insane game winner in double overtime. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen the highlights.
The Timberwolves snuck into the playoffs in the NBA. The Twins are off to a good start in baseball. So, I mean, the state of Minnesota sports right now is a lot of fun.
Nice. I ironically wore my Hornets hat tonight, asking what time they play in the playoffs.
Oh, no.
Just kidding. We never make it. What's up, Justin? My man. I've mentioned our show last night. You let me on and do the mock draft. I plugged that a couple times. Y'all give him a follow and all that fun stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I know we're talking about Hurts and stuff. I'm happy for the Minnesota teams. I really am. All we need is the Vikings to get a steal in this draft, or everybody to walk away happy, and it'll make the month of April a very fun month.
That Wild game was absolutely nuts. So I don't know if you guys caught any of that, but wow.
I didn't. I'll have to check it out.
Just absolutely crazy.
So fun.
It's nice to have some good sports teams, or at least, solid, entertaining ones. Because for a while there, Minnesota sports was not good whatsoever.
Justin says he was up till 1 a.m. That's funny.
Oh, so good. It was so good. And there were so many shots on goal there by the Stars where I was just kind of shaking because I knew that, that two of them hit the bar and one hit the back end of the stick, the handle part. So it was like they were getting shots on goal. And I thought if the Wild play through this and they end up losing in double overtime, being the underdogs in that series and not taking game one, that would just be pain. But things actually worked out all right for once.
Yeah, I tell you what, a good hockey game is tough to beat.
It really is.
Yeah.
They're very fun to be at. I was at our local soccer club's game on Saturday, and it was absolutely amazing. Live sports are hard to beat. I'm happy for the state of Minnesota right now. We just need the Vikings to come through and do their best on draft night. I have a lot of faith in this coach and GM. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a wild draft day.
I don't know if I'm going to be here for the live draft show at the moment. I'm waiting to see if a friend of mine is going to be having a little event at their house. So
sure,
it'd be kind of cool to do that just once. Otherwise, I will be putting content out about the draft over on the Viking Age. It's going to look a little different here in the next few days because we are changing up things. And if you go to the vikingage.com website, even tomorrow, it could look a little different and be a little bit more user-friendly for you guys. So
nice.
If you get a chance, check it out. I should have some more content over there every once in a while. I always appreciate the clicks.
The clicks and comments help Adam pay his bills. Can't say it enough. I root for both of these guys and everything that they do and try to
This
get them
morning,
paid.
an article I put out, the 5 Vikings players that Minnesota gave up on too early.
Ooh.
That sounds very fun.
I mean, I know you're all thinking one right now because it's
Laquan Treadwell.
The low-hanging fruit. I mean, we all know Daniel Carlson is.
Yeah.
That hurts. I don't bring it up. That never happened.
I justify that because I say, as a fan, I was supposed to be angry and overreact and say to fire him. The actual people at that job should not have done that. They should not be reacting the same way I am as a fan.
But you can catch the Purple People podcast in my live gaming, and the other night I did some Jackbox on there, and that was fun, over at MN Viking Zombie on my Twitch channel, which I see that right now our conversation is mostly dominated by YouTube, which is still pretty cool. I always appreciate when you guys find any way to interact with us at all. Good times. I see Andrew read the article. I appreciate that.
Man, oh man. I just clicked through them. Yeah, there are some names on here, and you nailed it. Oof.
Do you like my position that I wrote for Cordero?
I'm looking at it right now.
I mean, he pretty much is a kitchen sink. You plug him in anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Go
yeah,
follow
I mean,
Adam on the Viking Age.
Social media at Evan Viking Zombie. I'm there on my Twitter, my Instagram, my TikTok, anything that you want to catch me at. I'm at MN Viking Zombie. I'm trying to brand myself a little bit with that, so I appreciate all that.
Hey, there is my socials up on the screen right now, up at Vaguely Square. Mostly on the Twitter machine for me. That's my platform of choice, so you can check me out over there. I post some of my photography work, which you can find the links to on our Facebook page as well. Check it out. Help share it on social media. All that good stuff.
Here's Kyle West's photography page. You can also buy Purple People Podcast merch there if you would like. Kyle's a great photographer. Shoots a lot of cool stuff in his town in Iowa that he lives in, but I have to tell you, he's got a good creative mind. Also, if you want to buy Purple People Podcast merch, you can get anything you want pretty much everywhere. Coffee mug.
Don't say that, Andrew. I have to go back to the dentist tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't see that comment. I'll get to it in just a second. Yeah, you can put Purple People Podcast stuff on a cell phone case, a mouse pad, a coffee mug, T-shirts. So check that out. You can get it here at the link on the screen. If you're listening, it's https://KyleWest84.pickfair.com for you guys that are listening out there on Podomatic or on iTunes or wherever you're getting it.
Most recently, Audible is our new source for podcast. If you're on Audible, we are on Audible now. Google Podcasts, Spotify. I mean, all the major ones have us. iTunes, we're everywhere now. Kyle Smith has given up on watching horror movies. He now watches only Disney.
I have not, sir. I have not. I promise. We'll have to find one that we want to do there. Adam and I do stuff on his channel at MM Viking Zombie. We'll do horror movie reviews. Need to get back into that. The traveling circus is moving again. As I told you guys, I'm moving to Richmond, Virginia to be closer to my son. And I'm very excited about that. I've been slacking, but I do appreciate the call out because I need to do that. I always have a good time when we do those horror movie reviews. I'm actually going to go see one soon, I hope. Russell Crowe is in one. Something about the church, like a demonic priest.
Smith has been writing letters to Disney for Moana 2. He wants Moana 2.
I wish I could say that was accurate. I've never seen Moana 1, so I couldn't write it.
I have not seen Moana 1 either. And I know The Rock's in it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's about all I know about it. I get sent a couple of gifts every now and again in conversation, but I haven't seen that one. Actually, let's do that to end the show. What's your favorite Disney movie? In the chat, let us know too. What's your favorite Disney movie?
Well, mine's easy. Mine's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nice. Mine's easy. Predator.
I got
touche, man.
Right there.
Touche.
Disney owns Predator. It's a Disney movie now.
Well, with that caveat, I'd have to take a look at the catalog. I'll tell you, my favorite one growing up was The Jungle Book, the original cartoon. Something about the bare necessities made me forget about my worries and my strife, you know?
That's a good one. Aladdin's a good choice.
Aladdin, yes.
Little Mermaid was fun. I used to like the Aristocats.
Ooh, yeah. Good call. You bring me back to my childhood underneath that giant tube TV and all those VHSs I would go get at the flea market.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks again to everyone for joining us here. I always appreciate having everybody in chat that can talk Viking sports with us because it's a lot of fun. Makes our shows so much easier. And I know we didn't have a ton to talk about today, but we still stretched it out for quite a while and had some fun. And I want to hope that we were a little informative, if not entertaining. So thank you.
Hey, we'll see you guys next week. We're going to do the live draft. At a minimum, it'll be the Double Kyle show. God help you if it's 3 hours.
I'm looking forward to it.
What's that?
I said I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, God help you all if it's just Kyle and Kyle for the live draft for 3 hours. You're going to hear a lot of crazy stuff.
Are just going to be hanging out and bullshitting. Less of a podcast and more of just hang out, talk draft.
The draft should be a social event, though. I think that's what kind of it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get people to gather around and just have fun.
It's a tailgate, right, man. Yep. It's a reason to tailgate, and not you don't have to be in a parking lot, obviously, but it's a reason to gather. That's such a good point, Adam.
Now you got me thinking I should make some food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a good buffalo chicken dip. I might have to make that happen next week.
I'm thinking maybe some pickle wraps. You guys like pickle wraps?
I don't eat pickles.
I do like pickle wraps, but I've never been a fan of buffalo sauce.
Kyle Squared is always fun. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Justin, for tuning in. I appreciate both of you, and especially
when I'm not here to reel them in, things get kind of wild with the Kyles.
Especially when there's 3 on the screen and one's not even real, like earlier.
Just spitballing, but we could probably figure out a way to let people join the conversation if they wanted to pop in and chat with us for a little bit during that draft thing too. I think we can do that over StreamYard.
Yeah, we can do that over StreamYard. What I'll do is, one, I'll make sure my computer actually works that day. Secondly, what I'll do is we'll put some feelers out in the chat when we get started. And if you want to pop in for 5 or 10 minutes, if you're like Andrew or, Charlotte or Jonathan or something like that, if you guys want to jump in, I'm okay with that. We've never done it, but I'll send you the link. Justin, I don't know if you're still listening, but I know you're going to do something on the draft day, but we definitely have fun with you on. We'd love to talk post-draft with you again and see where your feelings are and maybe if a player or two moves that we talked about today. But thanks for letting us, thanks for talking with us on our show. Thanks for having me on yesterday. And he put it here. I linked it with our channel yesterday on Facebook and YouTube. Andrew joined in from our channel to watch, so we appreciate that, man. Thank you so much, Andrew.
I love how much he loves Minnesota sports. He's always here to hang out with us and talk about it. It's so cool.
I love it. Yeah, we really appreciate you, Andrew. And it's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see that you like us that much that you followed yesterday to do that. And you're always a regular here, so always welcome, and we appreciate you.
But we will be back to talk more Minnesota sports. I don't know how long it's going to be. There will definitely be unless some breaking stuff happens, I don't know if we're going to rush to get out here every 6 days or so. But we'll wait and see how things work out. But in the meantime, thanks again to everyone. What's that?
If there's a big trade or something, we might do the show. But I think the plan now is next show will be the live draft show on Thursday next week. So
yeah, I don't think we have any big rush. So yeah, once again, thanks again to everyone, and stay classy, Minnesota.